German football culture is unlike any other in Europe. Sellout stadiums, passionate fans, and fast-paced football have created one of Europe's most intense football leagues, from the Bundesliga down to the lower divisions. German football is also known for its fierce rivalries, with local derbies often being very hotly contested on the pitch. But off the field, there's a sense of collective unity between fans of German clubs you won't find in other countries. The rivalries are heated on the pitch, but off the pitch, fans of German football have a mutual respect and a common goal in mind: to increase the value and integrity of their league. However, this mutual respect between fan bases excludes one club. In August 2016, Borussia Dortmund were the first ever Bundesliga visitors to the Red Bull Arena after RB Leipzig had gained promotion to the league. But before the game, fans of the black and yellow held up banners and chanted their disapproval of Leipzig's presence in the league, a trend that has continued ever since within German football. So why is Leipzig unwelcome in the Bundesliga? And how has a club formed in 2009 risen to the top so quickly? Here's the story of Germany's most hated club. To the outside world, RB Leipzig is a success story born from grit and determination. In just over a decade, they've risen through the ranks of German football and now regularly compete in the Champions League, and are one of the biggest challengers to Bayern's throne at the top of the pyramid. But there's more to Leipzig's story than meets the eye. In 2006, Austrian energy drinks company Red Bull set their sights on German football as an investment opportunity, and took particular interest in the city of Leipzig. Initial plans to purchase ownership rights of FC Sachsen Leipzig were rebuffed by the DFB, German football's controlling body. Further failed attempts were made to purchase St. Pauli, 1860 Munich, and Fortuna Düsseldorf, before Red Bull pivoted back to their initial plan to acquire a Leipzig-based outfit. Finally, in 2009, Red Bull purchased the playing license of fifth tier SSV Markranstadt. It's important to know that ownership takeovers are not an anomaly in football. Premier League giants Chelsea and Newcastle have both had high-profile takeovers in recent years. And while they had their detractors, the takeover process on both occasions was relatively hassle-free. But in Germany, ownership rules are different, and takeovers are as hard as it gets due to the existence of the infamous 50+1 rule. The 50+1 rule states that to be eligible to compete in the Bundesliga, the majority of a club's voting rights must belong to members of the club, a rule put in place to ward off foreign investors in German clubs. This rule is the beating heart of German football. Unlike what you see in other leagues, a multi-billion-dollar company or investor can't buy a Bundesliga club and make changes to it without consulting the club's members and fans. But still being in the fifth tier of the German pyramid, SSV Markranstadt weren't subject to all of the harsh regulations of the 50+1 rule, and the rules that still applied. The company found a way to circumvent. For example, the DFB prohibits a club from being named after a sponsor, so the club could not be called Red Bull Leipzig. Instead, they were named Rasenballsport Leipzig, a name intended to keep RB branding at the forefront of the club. This was within the laws, but to many it was just a way of sidestepping legislation. There was also an overhaul of the club's jerseys, crest, and internal operations. Perhaps the most controversial detail of the takeover was its membership situation. German giants Borussia Dortmund and FC Schalke 04 both have over 120,000 official club members, a group capable of voting for or against key decisions on behalf of the club. These members are mostly made up of fans of the club, hence the point of the 50+1 rule, to ensure fans have majority ownership of every German club. But upon Red Bull's takeover of SSV Markranstadt, the club only gave out 17 membership spots, all of which were given to Red Bull employees, with no prior interest or affiliation with the club or the city of Leipzig. The company made membership tickets over 12 times higher than the average of other German clubs to keep fans of SSV Markranstadt, now RB Leipzig, from becoming members of the club. This was heavily frowned upon all over Germany, but again Red Bull weren't breaking any rules, just bending them. What followed in the years following Leipzig's takeover was even more astonishing, as it was controversial. Backed by Red Bull's deep pockets, the club enjoyed a meteoric rise through the ranks. They had the best players, the best youngsters, and were able to afford the best staff on offer. 2 promotions in 2 seasons saw Leipzig move up to the third tier of German football by 2012. A couple of years later, now under the stewardship of director Ralf Rangnick, Leipzig won promotion to the 2 Liga, Germany's second tier. And after just a year in the second division, they won promotion again, and were set to compete in the Bundesliga. Through their 8 years of competing so far, Leipzig had received a lot of criticism from all corners of Germany, but promotion to the Bundesliga, the country's most elite competition, multiplied those detracting voices. Leipzig, by all means, was a successful sporting project. Europe had never seen a club rise through 5 divisions in 7 years before. But their success wasn't welcomed in Germany. Their rise to the Bundesliga was seen as artificial, a project built upon bending the rules and backed by huge finances, instead of organic growth on the pitch. Borussia Dortmund's CEO, Hans-Joachim Watzke, had been the most vocal critic of the Red Bull model, saying that Leipzig was a team that existed simply to promote a canned drink. In just Leipzig's second Bundesliga game, they hosted Watzke's Dortmund at the Red Bull Arena in a game they won 1-0, thanks to a late goal from Naby Keita. Before and after the game, however, there were heavy protests from the Dortmund fans against Red Bull and their ownership of Leipzig. The trend would continue all season, with some fan bases even boycotting away games in Leipzig as a form of protest. Fans of Dynamo Dresden would take their protests a bit further by throwing a bull's head onto the pitch during their cup game against Leipzig, signifying their displeasure at Leipzig's involvement in German football. However, the unrest in the stands and off the pitch did very little to startle the Leipzig machine. As they had done in previous years, a step up to a new league was a welcome challenge. Spearheaded by star striker Timo Werner, Leipzig remained unbeaten in their first 13 games of the Bundesliga season, and would end the league in second place under the guidance of head coach Ralf Hasenhüttl. Leipzig had qualified for the UEFA Champions League in their first attempt, an unprecedented feat in football. Leipzig's first foray into the Champions League proved unsuccessful, as they finished in third place in a group that contained Besiktas, Monaco and Portuguese giants FC Porto. Leipzig would also finish the season in 6th place, putting them out of the Champions League for the 18-19 season. Head coach Ralf Hasenhüttl left the club and was replaced by Ralf Rangnick, who left his role as director to coach the team. However, he would only be the coach for 1 season, as the club had already earmarked Julian Nagelsmann to take over ahead of the 1920 season. Under Rangnick, though, the club returned to the UCL spots, finishing in 3rd place. They also reached the final of the DFB Pokal, where they were beaten by Bayern Munich. Overall, it was a successful season for the club. Nagelsmann, however, would take Leipzig to new heights in Europe. In his first season, Leipzig finished top of their Champions League group, routinely beating Lyon, Zenit St. Petersburg and Benfica. And victories over Tottenham Hotspur and Atletico Madrid in the knockouts took the club to a Champions League semi-final. Aged just 33, Nagelsmann was a name on everyone's lips, and the big European clubs began showing interest in him. Despite a loss in the semis to Neymar and Paris Saint-Germain, the 1920 season was seen as a monumental success for the Red Bull club. The following season, despite the departure of star striker Timo Werner to Chelsea, Leipzig still enjoyed a decent season, qualifying once more for the Champions League and reaching the DFB Pokal final, where they lost to Dortmund. Leipzig eventually paid the price for their incredible form. Head coach Julian Nagelsmann was signed by Bayern alongside their defender Deo Upamecano. There were also other significant departures, such as Nordi Mukiele and Ibrahima Konate. It looked like a significant blow to the Red Bull project, and their team being depleted by the bigger European clubs was celebrated in Germany. But Leipzig would have the final laugh over their detractors, winning the DFB Pokal in the 21-22 and 22-23 seasons, under the coaching of Dominic Tedesco and Marco Rose. Silverware in back-to-back seasons capped off what has been a rollercoaster journey for Leipzig. More protests followed from all corners of Germany following their success, but within the club there was nothing but celebration. With silverware secured, the next step on the agenda for Red Bull would be dethroning incumbent champions Bayern Munich and becoming champions of Germany. It's clear, however, that no matter what Leipzig achieves, they will never be welcome within German football. Those within the club point to the flaws of the 50+1 rule and how its regulations have created an uncompetitive league dominated solely by Bayern Munich. They also point to other European leagues and how private investment into Chelsea and Man City helped break a league monopolised by Manchester United. But their arguments often fall on reluctant ears, who counter with the point that Germany's rules are different from those abroad. This is also the point that Chelsea owner Roman Abramovich bought the club with the sole aim of competing for silverware, while Leipzig is just another marketing ploy by Red Bull, and their success is simply a byproduct of the excess cash pumped into the club. Red Bull ranks in the top 5 most valuable energy drinks in the world, selling over 7 billion cans every year, and by owning a football club in Germany, with their crest and branding plastered all over Leipzig, they get to further market their product in a country notorious for its drinking culture. To fans and owners of other German clubs, this motivation behind a Bundesliga team is simply unacceptable. That's it for today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. What do you think of RB Leipzig's rise to the top tier of German football? As always, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Till next time.